get us started with sharing something that you had written on your blue card with either one thing or center or activity in which you would want to change, discard, reaffirm your thinking, anything?
Well, it made me think back to one of my college classes. It was the most difficult but the most rewarding class because I learned like everything from the one class. And the one thing, she talked about like 4 main things about special ed, and one of the biggest thing was generalizing. And she told this story about when she was a teacher in the classroom. She was going to, it was a severely disabled classroom. They had intellectual disabilities. And she was going to teach them how, it was high school, how to ride a city bus. So she set up her whole classroom, like, okay, here's the bus, we're gonna get on the bus, we need to pay them. They went through this whole thing, right? So she was all set, they practiced it every day. Then they got to the city bus. They didn't know there was no steps in the classroom to get on the bus. So they had to practice getting, going up the steps. She said it was just the most disastrous field trip they ever took. And I'll never forget it because then after she told us the reason why is because the students were unable to generalize to have this setting that was fake to the real setting. So teaching everything in the real setting. So then I kind of talked about using real life examples. So real manipulatives, like real money instead of these pictures of money, because even so they still can't generalize that. Pictures, board makers, great, but the pictures are like a school that doesn't look like a school, so they still don't get it. So I always talk about like using real visuals, so like a picture of Brendan actually doing his work, not like a random boy doing their work, because that doesn't make any sense to him. And then I talked about repetition and then need to perform the task in the real environment. And that was kind of the purpose of our adaptive Phi-Ed this year, because we can teach our kids these social skills. Use your words when you're upset. Stop and think. Don't be impulsive. But we're teaching them all of those situations or scenarios when they're not upset. And so it's super easy to be like, yep, practice doing this when they're not upset. You're great at it. But now we put them in this adaptive Phi-Ed where Dave sets them up to be super frustrated, and then we use those skills. So I saw Dagan do it the other day. Like, he walked off, quit, but stopped and think. He just sat down, he started crying. The only prompt we gave him was, don't give up, you can do it. He sat there, and got up and continued to do it. And in the past, he would just storm out, walk, rip things off the wall, and be done. So, and we have seen that transfer because it's a real life situation. You're in a Phi-Ed class, you're with other students, and you have to accomplish something. And so that's really kind of the only time that we've started to see the transfer is if it is real, because they don't have the generalizing.
Authentic pedagogy, they call that in this book. Thank you.
Yep.
I just talked about providing my students with numerous opportunities. I think, and I know I talked about this before, especially when we did like the guided reading, I tend to change things too much, and I don't allow my students to master what it is that I want them to do, and then they're not able to apply it in other settings because I do it one time and then I switch. So what I'm really working on is, yes, I can change my content, but my strategy doesn't necessarily have to change. And then, tying that into all settings. So I talked on here my example of the reading and writing. Brian, you sent that PowerPoint for